Hello, this is Tom Strasser with breaking news that has just come in to the desk of the KGP studios. The playoff game that was scheduled for this Saturday night at 7 p.m. between Mount Gilead and Buckeye Trail has been canceled. Mount Gilead has had some COVID positive tests in their school district, and they have shut down school till next Tuesday, thus canceling the game. With the cancellation, Buckeye Trail becomes the first team in Week 7 to officially advance to the second round of the playoffs, winning by forfeit. So once again, Mount Gilead at Buckeye Trail this Saturday night, a game that was to be shown on KGP TV, has been canceled. The Warriors will now advance and play next Saturday, October the 17th. They will play the winner of KIP and Afrocentric, who play this Saturday night. If KIP is victorious, they will travel to Old Washington to play Buckeye Trail. If Afrocentric wins, then Buckeye Trail will travel to Columbus next Saturday night to take on Afrocentric. So once again, the Mount Gilead Buckeye Trail game has been canceled. Mount Gilead has to forfeit. Buckeye Trail advances to the second round. So now sit back and enjoy this week's edition of the KGP pregame show.
You're watching the KGP pregame show, live from the KGP studios in downtown Cambridge, Ohio. Your source for the latest local sports highlights, interviews, and information. Brought to you by And now, let's go live to the guys in the studio.
Hello, and welcome to the KGP pregame show as we're coming to you live from the KGP studios in beautiful downtown Cambridge, Ohio. I'm merely Tom Strasser, and once again, I'm joined by my partners in crime, but most of all, they're my teammates. Hammering Heath Dawson, once again hitting cleanup for us, and the man who sets the tables as well as anyone, and also does the dishes as well. D-Train, Darren McCullough. And fellas, it is week 7 of the high school football season. We're very thankful and blessed that we've made it this far, and if it's week 7, we can finally say it. Playoffs? We're talking playoffs? Yes, we are, because this Saturday night, Lyndon McKinley travels to McFarland Stadium to take on the Cambridge Bobcats at 7 p.m. And at Old Washington, Mount Gilead will travel to take on the Buckeye Trail Warriors. The Meadowbrook Colts have a bye, and we'll discuss their probable opponent as well. But fellas, it's an exciting time, and we're going to jump into things pretty quick. But before we do that, we want to, as always, thank our fine sponsors: Buffalo Wild Wings, Cons, Muskingum Valley Health Centers, John Valentine Insurance Agency, Simple Windows and Doors, and Basic Systems. Thanks for joining us here on the KGP pregame show. And when we come back, we're going to get things started on our playoff edition with the Cambridge Bobcats after this timeout. Welcome back to the KGP studios here for this week's edition of the KGP pregame show. And it's week 7. we're going to talk playoffs. But before we do that, we're going to look back at week 6 for the Cambridge Bobcats. And fellas, really, if it was up to me, we just wouldn't even talk about the Carrollton game. Right. Because with the tragedy that struck the Bobcat community, football was totally irrelevant. And I had one of the football players tell me that when they got there, some of them, he said him for one, just realized football wasn't a priority. And, that's understandable because, fellas, everybody knows you make it to our age, adulthood, you live long enough, you're going to experience tragedies. And we've all done that. We've lost loved ones. And regardless how many times you do it, you never get numb to it. It's like it's the first time. Well, now take these teenagers of the Bobcats. Some of them were experiencing a tragedy of a loss of loved one for the very first time. And that is just something that's real tough to overcome. But they had to get on the bus and travel and take on a talented Carrollton Warriors squad. And as expected, things just didn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, a tough night for Cambridge with a 40-7 loss. I was talking to some friends yesterday. You talk about experienced loss. I just went to a funeral yesterday of a friend, and I'd only met my friend's father one time because as they lived over in California, but it was tough, and I sit and teared up, and I didn't really even have the relationship. So, and I'm going to go spiritual. And for those of you who are out there who maybe not believe, I'm apologize on that. But the Bible teaches us two things, 2 words about Jesus. Jesus wept, and think about that. When you take that into account, these boys are 14, 15, 16 years old, 17. And they're experiencing this heartache of losing a friend. I know Ben, my girlfriend's son, Ben Rivers, he played with Bank and knew him. And he's been struggling. So I knew if that was going on at home, it was going on in many homes. So I really felt bad for Cambridge. A 40-7 outcome, that's not what any of us expected, especially coming off of that massive win over Belair. So, again, that game was second, took backseat. I think most of the kids probably, when they got there, realized that they didn't want to probably even, most of their hearts were in Cambridge, not in Carrollton, let's face it. But I expect big things come this week because I have some news we'll get into here in a second that I'm excited to share. But yeah, I agree, Tommy. Just a tough week for the whole, not only Cambridge community, but I know you being a trail teacher, I know Trail was praying for that family. I know Meadowbrook people, our family at our churches, just the whole community got behind the Cambridge Bobcat football team and athletics teams in general, the school. That tells me that this community we live in, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and training, Cambridge, we'll talk about the Carrollton game here in just a second. I think it's neat for Cambridge for their opening playoff game. I think it's a blessing that they get to play at home because they need the crowd in the community there. Everybody give a group hug and then be ready to go. And I know they will be inspired and ready to play this Saturday night. But with Carrollton, give the Warriors credit, even through everything, they went out and played an exceptional game, one of their best games of the season.
Yeah, they kind of pulled a page on Cambridge's playbook this year.
Right.
Cambridge has been the team that's been able to get onto that early lead and jump on teams early. Well, Carrollton led 27-0 at the half over Cambridge, and like you guys said, the wind was out of their sails. The game of football is great, and we love it, but family and life is more important than any game you're ever going to play in any sport. And, it's hard losing someone that you're close to. And like you were saying, Heath, those young men that are on that team, it's hard for them to understand. You don't, even as adults, we don't fully understand some of this. And it's okay. Be a friend, pick someone up, help someone out, talk to a friend, let somebody know. This is, remember the good times, share the good stuff, be happy for what he brought to life. And it's just an unfortunate situation.
Well said, my man.
Yeah,
and
very well said.
Heath, when you look at the Bobcats, first of all, we'll never apologize for getting spiritual on this show.
Thank you.
That's always welcome. But when you look at Cambridge and you try to find, look at some little positives maybe to do, like we said, 27-0 at halftime. What were some of the things that stood out to you in this game?
Well, on the Cambridge side, one of the biggest things is, like Train said, they're down 27 to nothing there at the half. I mean, to go into the second half, you could see that the first 24 minutes of action, they weren't physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't think they were there. But to show up in the second half and only get beat 13-7 in the second half, it kind of tells me that they woke up just a little bit in the second half. But some of the things you look at, on Cambridge's side, Cambridge has kind of been, as you said, the aggressor train coming out of the box. But when you look at Carrollton, one of the biggest things, and I will tip my hat off, and if Carrollton people are just by chance watching, like you said, probably their best performance of the year. We don't want to take anything away from their victory at all. But, when you looked at, they had 403 yards of total offense to 119 for Cambridge. That to me says a lot, because Cambridge, I don't know if they've been limited to 119 yards and a half this season, let alone a game. So that was one of the biggest things that I saw coming out of the box score and some of the things I saw. But that positive, I think Cambridge will be able to build on that second half a little bit going into this week.
Yeah, and Train, that is a good point. The second half, 13-7 for Cambridge. They had to pick themselves off the mat, and they did that against a Warrior squad who we knew coming in has played a good schedule and was going to be a formidable foe for the Cats.
Speaking of schedules, let's not shake a stick at Cambridge's schedule this year.
No.
Through the first 6 weeks, their opponent's record is 24-12.
Pretty good.
So Coach Leak and Mr. Quinn, their AD, they've done a good job of challenging this team and preparing them for Week 7. And I think they're going to be prepared for Week 7. Like I said, 24-12, their opponent's record. They've been outscored 148-185. Now let's think about this. Their 3 losses to Carrollton, New Philly, and Lima Central Catholic. They gave up over 130 points combined in those 2 games. So now you're talking those other 3 games giving up 40, 50 points.
Right.
All of a sudden, that kind of changes things a little bit. That just shows, unfortunately, in a normal season, maybe a 3-3 record, or if say they finish 5-5 in 10 weeks, they may not get in. But these Bobcats are battle tested right now. They've had to play some tough competition.
And Heath, Cambridge, we talked about last week getting Mobilini back, and
well, I will. That's one of the neat things. Sean and I talking last night. Logan's dad, Sean, messaged me. And
you want to?
It wasn't at a restaurant. It wasn't at a restaurant. No. Or as Logan, Sean said he loved my joke about I wouldn't want to meet the Mobilini family in a dark alley. So it wasn't in a dark alley either. So okay. I think they would have my back as much as I pumped them up on this show. But yeah, his dad said that he didn't end up playing last week.
Okay.
And I saw the slip from William Cumler, MD. So that Logan was there officially, so I got to see the medical slip. And Sean said Logan is definitely back this week. I took him to the doctor for a checkup on his shoulder just to be safe, and it's okay. So guess what, Bobcat fans? Mr. Mobilini is going to be back in that backfield this week, and that's probably bad news for Lyndon McKinley.
Yeah, and that's a blessing, and very fortunate Cambridge getting back at full strength, and really good that they were able to sit him out last week, because you want to be full strength going into your first playoff game. And man, the time that he missed, Heath, you look, you had Brumfield and you had Kenworthy step up and handle the ball out of the backfield. So, that's good experience for them. But to have your horse back, that is a uplifting, and he'll be excited.
Right. I think one of the neat things coming down the stretch now for Cambridge as we start the playoffs, I think, yes, as Mobilini was out, he was able to get rested, get healthy, and then coming back home, as you said, I think Cambridge is going to rally the troops around a little bit of everything, and I would expect them to come out really, really fast and strong come this Friday.
And they trained Cambridge at home Saturday night against Lyndon McKinley, and This is the What Do We Know About Lyndon McKinley segment.
Well, we spent hours upon hours researching him and found very little about him.
Right.
Obviously, Lyndon McKinley from the Columbus area, they're 1-2 this year. They've been outscored. Obviously, the first 3 weeks were canceled because Columbus wasn't having athletic events. They've been outscored 48-35 on the season. So they've only played 3 games, obviously. From the little bit, their only win was the second game of the year against KIP Columbus. And what is it? Knowledge and Power or something.
Yeah,
It's
some
type
academy of some sort.
Academy or online private school of some sort.
Way to do your
And,
homework, guys. Some academy of some sort.
yeah. I mean,
I
that's-
digress. Go right ahead.
That's as much as we can
Train.
find on our
Exactly.
research.
Well, we could say number 11 through to number 9, like we read on some
Right.
of the information that we saw on them.
Train and I, being the statistician nerds we are, we couldn't find anything, so that says a lot.
But their only win was that game in week 2, and before that, their last win was a forfeit win in week 1 of 2019. Well, their last win where they actually played a game was September 15th, 2017. So it's before this year, it's kind of been a while that they've been experiencing victory on the football field, so to speak. From the little bit of video that I saw on their team, it looks like they ran a little bit of spread. They like to get their QB outside the pocket. He's a little smaller kid, but he's got some athleticism. They do have some weapons on the outside, so the corners and linebackers for Cambridge have to be ready. And really the big thing is I think our buddy Justin Bartlett might be feasting on that quarterback. If he rolls out his side, he might be able to get a sack or 2 for him.
Now, fellas, you got to think the Panthers, they're going to be excited. But just, put yourself in their cleats. You're told at the beginning of the year there's no football in the around, the Columbus City schools. And then so the first 3 weeks, you're not playing. Then all of a sudden you're cleared to play. So they're excited. Like you said, they've only played 3 games. Now, the good news for the Panthers, defensively, they're giving up 14 points a game. Bad news is they're only scoring 13. And you've got to think you're not holding Cambridge if they're on all cylinders to 13, 14 points. So the Panthers, they're going to have to find some offense and create some offense that they haven't shown through, but like I said, only 3 weeks.
And that's one of the things, Tommy, I'm glad you said that because, when you look at McKinley, that's what I thought. To think that they're going to have to beat Cambridge, they're going to have to try to keep it to a 2-score game or a 3-score game. I just don't see that is going to be the case because the way Cambridge is able to score. One thing I do know that Cambridge is going to have to do a better job of on this week is if Lyndon McKinley gets into those third down situations. Carrollton last week was 7 of 10 on third downs. When you looked at the combination of Chase Olstrom, he rushed for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had their quarterback, Luke Warner, threw for 121, 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 51 yards and a touchdown. So, Cambridge is going to have to do a better job containing Lyndon's athletes and specifically on third down, just do a better job of getting off the field. When you look at Bartlett and congrats Trace Stottsbury this past week had a good game. Caden Kenworthy again. With them guys in the defensive middle, I expect Cambridge will do a much better job this week.
But you're right, very un-Cambridge-like defensively because remember, if I'm correct, New Philly got 9 first downs.
Yeah.
The entire game against Cambridge. But I expect the Bobcat defense to bounce back. Now, fellas, just a little, did you know KIP Columbus that you were talking about, the academy that stands for whatever, their opening round playoff game is against Afrocentric. Why is that important? Because the Buckeye Trail Warriors, who we will talk with head coach Donnie Kerns in our last segment, if Trail wins their first game, they would play the winner of Afrocentric and KIP Columbus. So a little, thank you very much. That's
so
why.
maybe Donnie Kerns can tell us what KIP is.
Yeah, well, we'll put
him on the stand.
Throw him under the bus.
Right.
Yeah. But Heath with Caden Moore, not his typical game, but the way, in a way, look for the positive. As well as he's played, get one bad one out of the way and then get back on the road because the one thing he has been he's been consistent
Yep.
all year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Caden's been able to do, I mean, he's been the player of the week on our show twice, so that says enough about him as a sophomore coming into this season. I mean, it's kind of hard to me, it's kind of hard to remember that he's only started 6 games in his career. It feels like we've been saying his name for 2 years on this show now. But, 3 interceptions for Caden, that's very uncharacteristic. And I want to give Austin Coletti a plug from Carrollton. He had 2 picks in the game the other night. So good job to Austin Coletti. But, yeah, for Caden to go 12 of 26, I mean, he's to be 50% passing. I mean, he's been near 70% the whole season. And then the picks, that's un-Caden-like. But, again, does it go back to, Caden's a sophomore? Bank was a sophomore. I'm sure they were friends.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Caden's head was a little bit different place. So, again, I don't want to take away from Carrollton, but, that's the first bad game for Caden, and I suspect that it had a lot to do with what was going on in that young man's heart and his mind and soul.
Yeah, and like we said, don't take anything away from Carrollton. We're not saying Carrollton don't win the game
Right.
if tragedy doesn't strike, but I think the competitiveness of the game
Right.
would have
Right.
been there. So,
Right.
again, Cambridge at home this Saturday night against the Panthers of Lyndon McKinley. We want to wish Coach Ray Leak, his staff, and the boys the best of luck, and it's going to be exciting at McFarland Stadium, and get behind the Bobcats. This community needs to, something to rally around, and the Bobcats will be there to do that. So that takes care of our Bobcat segment. And once again, we want to thank our fine sponsors: Buffalo Wild Wings, Cons, John Valentine Insurance Agency, Muskingum Valley Health Centers, Basic Systems, and Simple Windows and Doors. You visit these fine establishments in our community, be sure to thank them for sponsoring the KGP pregame show. So that's the Bobcats. When we come back, we're going to look down at Byesville, the Meadowbrook Colts, your 2020 MVL champions, undefeated. They have a bye week, but we'll look back at their big victory over West End and look ahead to their opponent, which will be, I'll tease you. You have to come back to find out here on the KGP pregame show. Welcome back to the KGP studios here in downtown Cambridge for this week's edition of the KGP pregame show. Last segment, we looked at the Cambridge Bobcats. It's time to look at the 2020 MVL champions. What a nice ring that has to it. The Meadowbrook Colts, and Train, again, Meadowbrook, big favorites, and they put the game at West End away, and boy, did they put it away early. 35 points in the first quarter.
And they probably could have had 42. They had a fumble down close to the red zone in that first quarter too. I mean, not to be rude, but it felt like you were playing Madden on rookie level. Is how it felt like. It just seemed Meadowbrook could march down the field with anything they wanted to do, and the only real struggle that Meadowbrook had was that they were shooting themselves in the foot a lot of times with penalties. And I know that's been a thing that Coach Clendenning's been talking about all years, and the penalties kind of got them Friday night. They had a lot of holding penalties, and then just some silly. I'm sure he wants them to correct, because now the games, not that these games didn't matter, but they matter a lot more starting week 8.
And Heath, when you look at Meadowbrook's big victory, West End, a young squad, and they battled, but still, a couple years, away as they get older and develop. But Meadowbrook offensively, 60 points on the board, starts with Davis Singleton again. But Coach Clendenning was able to play a lot of kids, and Davis Singleton didn't have to do a lot but what he did was more than enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a different week, same story. Davis was 11 of 14 through the air for 176 yards. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's the first game he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass this year. But he didn't need to, as he rushed for 5 times for 44 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, again, Davis has just been a weapon, whether it's been his arm or his leg. So, another big game for him. And, once we start getting into the playoffs, it'll be neat to see, as they start going down the playoff schedule, just to see how much he starts stepping up even more. So I'm excited to see him in the playoffs, actually.
Yeah, and Train again, Singleton completes over 78% of his passes and averages 8.8 yards a carry. And he was able to get in and get out.
Yeah, and the surprising thing, everybody talks about his number one receiver and his deep threat, Jerome Todd. Jerome only had 1 catch Friday night. He was hitting junior Brady McManaway, and Brady was running aggressively with 4 catches for 81 yards. He was a big threat as a receiver. And then you've got to give credit to the law firm, as we call them, of Anthony Schwartz, Tyler Lacey, and Caden Casey. They combined 18 carries, 177 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Not bad group for that trio.
And I don't know if we got paid or not, but West End definitely paid with the amount of depth and talent that Meadowbrook had. You mentioned Singleton not throwing a touchdown. Josh Hupp came in, and Meadowbrook didn't throw the ball a lot. They kept it on the ground. The game got to a running clock. Second, Hupp, 26 yards passing and a touchdown.
Yeah, good job for him. It's nice to see. And then when you look through the air, Jonah McCall, again, it just seems like that guy makes a play somehow, some way, whether it be on offense, whether it be on defense, whether it be on special teams. He had 2 catches for 36 yards, but for the second week in a row, he takes it to the house for 56 yards on a punt return. And then you had Trevin Maley had a touchdown for 1 reception. He had a 26-yard catch. So pretty neat to see a few other guys getting the names. And Schwartz, I talked to Coach Baker, like I said a few weeks ago, talking about, Lacey and Schwartz. So, he said Schwartz would probably be in any other normal year getting a lot more carries. I mean, but it's nice to see him come in and have a big night and get in the end zone a couple times.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. And Train Meadowbrook offensively finished the night 262 yards rushing, and they had a slew of people rushing the ball, 205 yards passing, so 467 yards total offense.
At the beginning of the year, who was going to be that guy to step up? And I think it's been a collective effort on the ground game, because
right.
you've seen Lacey blow up for over 100 yards. You've seen Singleton blow up for 100 yards. And then Friday night, Schwartz has almost 100 yards with the 80 yards rushing. And Caden Casey, when he comes in, he runs hard too. So there's a lot of depth there in that rushing attack of Meadowbrook's.
Right.
Yeah, Casey, 24 yards rushing and 1 touchdown as well for Meadowbrook. Again, you look on the other side of the ball, Train, and the defense pitches back-to-back shutouts. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and it's scary when I start trying to think, especially live here in the studios. How many shutouts has Meadowbrook had this year?
Well, this is the 2nd straight shutout, and they shut out Crooksville, so 3, right? Because Coshocton and John Glenn both scored, and then New Lex had the 1 touchdown, so it's 3 shutouts.
So, and just a stifling defense. They get the special teams touchdown from McCall. But then defensively, when you look at the leading tacklers, some names, it's nice to have some younger kids step up that got some playing time.
Yeah, you got Cale Flowers, led them in tackles. He came in off the bench, did a good job. Brady Manaway had 4. Rhett Dyer had 4. And then Sam Buck came off the bench with 4 tackles. And Damon Webster had a sack for him, too. So, I mean, a lot of that is they're just dominating up front on both sides of the field.
Yeah, and Heath, when you talk about dominating defensively, West End, 2 of 13 passing for 17 yards. And for the 2nd week in a row, the opponent had negative yards rushing, 25 carries for 14 yards. So, and also Meadowbrook forced 9 punts as well.
Right, and as we have our guest getting ready to come onto the show, that would be music to Coach Kerns' ears as he's here to force a team into 9 punts. But yes, I mean, Meadowbrook, not only offensively, like I said, we always are praising their offense, but their defense is every bit as good as that offense. So, I mean, when they're limited teams, to that many yards of offense and having to punt the ball, I mean, one of the things against Meadowbrook is you don't want them to have the football. You want to do what Coach Kerns likes to do. Make that game a little bit long, shorter game, run the football, keep it out of their hands. And if you're going to beat Meadowbrook, that's how you're going to have to beat them, is keep the football out of their hands. And punting it 9 times and only having about 40 yards of total offense isn't going to get it done.
Yeah, and a tough night all the way around for West M and Train. But when we had Coach Clendenning, when we talked to him the last time, he was the one thing that is kind of stuck in his craw has been the penalties. And, when you get the big lead and stuff, sometimes you kind of maybe lose the discipline or, not as focused. And that happened again Friday night.
Yeah, with all the penalties, I'm sure he's not going to be happy about that. But, I mean, to have as many penalties as they had, I mean, it had to be at least 70 yards in penalties. So, again, this is probably at least the second or third time this year that they've had more penalty yards than their opponent had offensive yards. So that's frustrating when you're giving a team more than they're actually earning. And I'm sure that's something that he's really preaching. And this week, especially with them having the bye, they're really preaching it. And there's probably a little bit more, some more up downs, some more bear crawls, some more 40-yard sprints, whatever it is, to get through their guys' heads. Like, listen, we've got to focus on what needs to be done, focus on the little things, and not make the silly mistakes that we're making through these first 6 weeks.
And Heath, how much do you think that a lot of that is just with the way they've ran through the MVL?
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Coshocton game, it was tight and close, and you seen the focus. You didn't see the penalties as much. I think it's been when Meadowbrook has, put the game away, it's kind of easy to kind of get lax. And with the playoffs starting for Meadowbrook a week from this Saturday night, and we'll talk about that here next, I'm sure the focus will be there and the penalties will go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is part of it, Tommy, is, when you're up 30-0 after the first quarter. I mean, it's hard to stay focused because you're moving it at will. As Train said, it could have been 42-0 after the first. So the focus is a little bit lacking. One thing I would like to go back, not correct you on per se, but in that Coshocton game, Train can recall, there was a time where Meadowbrook got the ball down to about the 10-yard line. They got a sideline penalty from one of the coaches and a personal foul in the same play and moved it back, and that allowed Coshocton to kind of get back in that ball game a little bit. So one of the biggest things is I can see Coach Clendenning why he is concerned with that, because that's the only time that I would say that Meadowbrook has really been in a close game and tested, and you did see, not maybe throughout the game, the penalties, but in that little bit of a window it happened. And I mean, that if I was Meadowbrook's coaching staff, that would be my biggest concern, as making sure once it gets to a close game, because I mean, let's face it, Meadowbrook has been on cruise control. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this is right. I know it's a truncated season, but that's Meadowbrook's first undefeated season in school history, I believe. So, I mean, congrats to them, 5-0, MVL small school champs, the second year in a row. I can remember going back to when Coach Warden was there and Coach Bendel, and then to see Coach Wells come on the scene and kind of get things going, and now Coach Clendenning has come in and has just kind of taken even to the next level.
And Coach Twitty as
and
well.
Coach Twitty, as well. I mean, it's kind of just neat to see what's happened there, but, I would hate to see them get into a situation where it's a close game and they're a better team and they lose focus. So I think that's one of the biggest things. My key going into Week 8 for Meadowbrook is focus, focus, focus.
And
Hold on, Tommy. We got to give credit to, at halftime of this game, it was 54-0. So I have to throw in a shout out to our favorite closer, Kirby Graham, who sent the text to us that the Meadowbrook scoring in a single game, their record was 70 versus Zanesville Rosecrans in 2013. So I was I didn't say it out loud at the game, but I was kind of hoping they'd be able to get to that maybe 71, so this group could set a new school record for most points. Unfortunately, You don't want to be the guy who runs up a score on another team, and that's the one thing you have to give Coach Clendenning and his staff credit for. They've been the superior team, and they've been able to say, okay, we're gonna back off. Let's just run the clock and get out of here injury free.
Right. Can I give the closer a little plug too, because he is the best guy as far as factoids and the historic tidbits. I would have been wrong because I would have said, what is a win over Waterford in the 80s? Because I knew Meadowbrook had a couple big wins back in the 80s, big blowout wins over Waterford. So I would have been wrong on that one, Train. So good point, tipping your hat to the closer.
You cannot go wrong with tipping your hat to the closer.
Right.
Absolutely. But Train, I will tell you, when Heath just moments ago said, he hates, correct someone or point someone, I was sure hoping he was talking to you, but he was talking to me, so I guess I lost my focus. So,
that's okay.
But that's all right. But now,
at least we didn't have crickets this week.
yeah,
So we're good.
There was no penalty thrown on you for
no
this
flag.
as
Yeah.
we wrap
Delay a
things,
game.
as we wrap things up here with Meadowbrook, and I'm losing control of everything.
Yeah, we got this show. We got
yeah.
it. Come on, Trainer.
They're off this week. Hopefully, Coach Clendenning will be up here next week to talk about his next opponent as Meadowbrook takes the bye. Remember, we said if you have a bye, which Meadowbrook did, they had the option of trying to pick up a game for Game 7. I asked Coach Clendenning his thoughts on that, and he said they were going to take the bye. And
That's what I called last week. Train
I called it.
Yeah.
he did
So-
not. I hate to
so-
correct
Yeah,
him, but
yeah,
I will.
yeah, okay.
You said you would play.
I know.
They say
I was
about
trying to
payback.
get away
Yeah,
with it.
okay.
I would play. I would want to keep that rhythm going, but that's just me.
You talk the MVL champs. It's how interesting is it that Meadowbrook, who will they play Friday night, October the 17th in Byesville? They will play the winner of Philo and Maysville. Two MVL schools in the other division. And guys, just a couple of notes with that. Philo and Maysville both come in 2-4. Yeah. Philo has lost 4 in a row. Maysville, this past Friday night, broke a 4-game losing streak. And who did they beat? They beat Philo. Maysville won 43-42 in overtime. And now you got to turn around and play again for literally all the marbles, with the playoffs. So your thoughts real quick on Philo and Maysville.
It kind of goes against why people didn't want Ohio State and Michigan in the same division because, or in opposite divisions because they was afraid they'd play for the Big Ten title. So this is kind of what's happened with Philo and Maysville having to play a second week in a row. But what I think about this game is Philo and Maysville both come into this game already almost having already played a playoff game, with a tight game, 43-42 overtime contest. I look at it this way. Both teams are 2-4. If I didn't know anything about it, I wouldn't have guessed it. Either team was 2-4. They are both better than their records indicate. And just because you're going to have a 3-4 team coming into Meadowbrook in Week 8, don't be confused because remember, Meadowbrook did scrimmage Philo in the early going, and it was pretty close. So, I mean, just because you look at those records, throw those out, and like I said, both teams have already basically played a playoff game in last week, and they're going to play another one this week. So whoever wins this game is going to come into that game battle-tested.
And if I'm not mistaken, Maysville runs an offense very similar to Coshocton's, while Philo runs that spread and to run out of it. So Meadowbrook's definitely thinking back to the Coshocton game where the defense wasn't as dominant. So they definitely got to be aware of the counters, the trap plays, and the sweeps and everything.
Please tell me, is he mistaken?
He's right. He's right.
Okay. Well, that wraps up. And guys, we really have to cut this down absolutely right now because our next guest when we come back is sitting way too close
to our wings.
Yes,
that is true.
That our
Very
sponsor,
true. Good point.
Buffalo Wild Wings, provides for us. So we're going to have to
He's
get
just
him.
laughing.
We're going to have to get him up here quick. And speaking of sponsors, again, we want to thank Buffalo Wild Wings, Cons, Muskingum Valley Health Centers, John Valentine Insurance Agency, Simple Windows and Doors, and Basic Systems for sponsoring this week's broadcast of the KGP pregame show. That's the Meadowbrook Colts. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Your 2020 MVL champion. So welcome to the league, Meadowbrook, and congratulations to Coach Clendenning, his staff, and players. And enjoy your week off, and then get ready for either Philo or Maysville. KGP TV will be there.
We'll be there. Training Night
in 2
Live.
weeks. And speaking of being there, Saturday night, good Lord willing, I will be in Old Washington to see the Buckeye Trail Warriors in their playoff game with Mount Gilead. And when we come back, let's talk Buckeye Trail football with the head coach, the head honcho, my idol, Donnie Kerns, after this timeout. Hello and welcome back to beautiful downtown Cambridge, here at the KGP studios for this week's KGP pre. Tommy Strasser, Hammer and Heath Dawson, Darren McCullough D-Train there on the end, and truly honored to have my guest tonight because my back is hurting from having to carry the show thus far, and now he can come in, I can tag him, he can jump in and bring it home.
Listen, we work with you 1 day a week, and that's plenty enough. This poor guy has to go 5 days of it, so I don't know how you do it.
We're honored to be joined by the head football coach of the Buckeye Trail Warriors, Donnie Kerns. And Coach, thanks for saving me some wings. Absolutely. It's always good to have you. And Coach, before we talk Buckeye Trail Warriors, I just want to go back last week. We talked about the tragedy in Cambridge and what they've dealt with. It really hit home to your football team and the community as well.
Yeah, it was awful. Prayers are with that family. Absolutely heartbreaking. My daughter was playing in the softball games out here Sunday, and I kind of get chills every time. I've told this story several times. Everybody stood quiet and respected during that funeral. And probably 35 minutes into it, you hear Matthew Binkowitz's dad play ball, and I mean, he yelled it. I mean, I get chills every time I hear that story. I tell that story.
I'm getting them right now. Just
Man,
saying it.
Yeah.
What a strong family. But yes, it hit our kid. I mean, it hit Tyler Dodd was really affected. It's terrible. I mean, prayers are with them. Prayers are with them.
Yeah, thanks for your kind words. And yes, definitely an emotional week and a tough week for our entire community. But just wanted to show that Bink's life extended not outside of Cambridge, Meadowbrook Trail and far out. And again, prayers for the Binkowitz family. Now, Coach Kerns, we've talked about Meadowbrook, and there's other teams that have a bye this week. Now, last week I know you wanted, we're looking forward to playing your rival Newcomerstown at home, to gear up. Due to COVID, Newcomerstown had to cancel. So in essence, you had a bye week. Now, putting a positive spin on that, with the injury that you lose Franco Rome, you have others banged up. Could that turn out to possibly be a blessing not playing Friday night?
Yeah, we absolutely wanted to play Newcomerstown. We really did. I felt like we had a really good week of practice. Things were looking good. I felt. When that happened, I think it was after, maybe Wednesday's practice. It was after Wednesday's practice, and Mr. Bates put out a request. We were looking for a game, to replace that, and I kind of wanted to. We're not terribly banged up, but we're bruised, and it was a blessing. But he called me that night because we talked about you prepare for an offense. You know, and their offense is so unique. Now we have to go back and prepare for a spread in 2 days. So I was kind of just hoping to stay with the bye because we're going to get 10 games in anyways. But he called me that night and he said, "Hey," he said, "I found somebody to play that wants to play. They run the same exact offense as Newcomerstown." I think, okay, I'll hear him out. He said, "It's Kirtland."
What was Alabama playing Saturday and they wasn't available?
Well, yeah.
They were playing
Jeez, if you were bruised before that, jeez.
And that's a true story.
Yes,
They were
I know.
Kirtland was looking. For those who don't know, Kirtland's one of the best Division V teams in the state of Ohio.
They're ranked 2, am I correct?
Yeah, they win the state championship like every year.
I remember Barnesville played them a few years ago in
Barnesville
the
beat
playoffs.
'em.
Yeah, and beat them. Yeah.
Barnesville beat them.
Yep.
That was, and then that kind of started the Kirtland run, and I've
Right.
kind of followed that. And I looked on the internet and it said that their coach's name is Tiger, and it says that his next win is his 200th. I'm like, so that would have been. He would have been going for his 200th win had and they were willing to make the trip to.
No thanks.
Old
Yeah, they would
Washington.
come,
We didn't feel it was advantageous because we're going to try to get 10 games in regardless because we can go till November 14th.
Trained coaches just hope and pray they can coach 200 games. Forget getting 200 wins.
Wow.
And that's only playing 10 a year and
Yeah.
plus playoffs.
I love these coaches' names. We got
Right.
Tiger. We have
Spider.
Spider a couple weeks ago.
And I want to give you credit. You're a lot smarter than Tommy said you were. So.
Oh, man.
Anyway, sorry.
So,
Back to the show.
Go ahead, Train.
Yeah, I mean, hey, whenever you can get an opportunity to kind of lick your wounds and get healthy, that's great. There's a reason why there's that bye week in the NFL season. There's a reason why college football, they have those bye weeks. You get to kind of rest up and feel better. And I mean, I know you guys had a lot of kids healthy, so
We're healthy.
So that's a great thing.
Nice.
Minus Franco, you guys
How
have
do you
every.
know?
Yeah, I love it. How do you know? How do you know, Mount Gilead? How do you know?
Not so fast.
Yeah,
He just
so-
pulled old Curso on him. I like it.
The Lee Corso of Quaker City, Donnie Kerns.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just tickled at the thought that Mount Gilead, they may be watching our show. That kind of makes me,
Yeah.
that kind of makes me feel good.
There's some trail connections there. I'm sure it'll be shared up there.
Yes, and Donnie, let's talk about, before we talk about the Indians, let's talk about that special connection. It's amazing. You think of how big this world is, then you realize just how small it is, because the Indians have a assistant coach, I believe, that definitely has some very strong ties to this community.
Yes. So my man, Bill Starr, his daughter Leslie is married to Michael
Reed,
and Michael
yeah.
Reed, and he coaches Mount Gilead. So, and I knew that, and I always kind of followed Mount Gilead just because I knew that. I always followed their scores and whatnot. And it was, and I'm not lying. When we were voting, and I seen Mount Gilead was in our region, I just felt, I just felt like that game would happen. I don't know why. I mean, I knew it could be close anyways, but I felt like that game would happen, and it did. Just shows you, the Lord works in mysterious ways. But it's pretty cool. Her dad and his father-in-law done so much for that program, done so much for me.
Yeah.
And now, I think she put on Facebook she's going to be rooting against the trail. So.
But yeah, you're right. What a great connection there. Bill Starr, you're right. He impacted all of our lives, and for Coach Reed to come in, that's I'm sure that's special for him as well.
Oh yeah, and going to the game, Coach Kerns, you said talked there a second ago about the spread. What can you tell us a little bit about Mount Gilead coming in, that spread offense they run, some of their weapons? Talk a little bit about how their football team.
They run some spread, but then they hop into some three-back stuff that Newcomerstown runs. I tell you, they give you a lot to prepare for. They give you a bunch to prepare for, you don't want to get caught, subbing D linemen in to stop the three-back stuff, and then because they just go to it, they'll he'll come out from a spread to a 3-back. So then you don't want to have 5 D linemen on the field when they're in the spread. So we're trying to cross train some guys. We have some things that we're going to do to where we hopefully don't get caught in a bad offense.
And that's what I was going to say. A lot of assignment football, I'm sure that you're working on this week.
Absolutely, yeah. We always do, but yeah, we really focus on personnel groupings this week. When we found out we weren't playing, we had 2 great practices Thursday and Friday, and we found some Mount Gilead film on YouTube, and so we actually started preparing for them last week.
Coach, before Train pops in with a question, I want to ask you, when you look at this offense for the Indians that you'll see Saturday night at home, is there anybody that you have played thus far that runs a similar offense to them?
Yeah, probably about everybody we play. TCC, Malvern, Strasburg, they run that spread stuff. I think you have to gear to stop their spread. But then when they go to their 3-back stuff, it's similar to what Newcomerstown does. So, we've seen it, but we're kind of all in on stopping the spread right now. Obviously we have personnel groupings to stop to hopefully stop their 3-back stuff, but.
And Train, he was all over the spread of wings over there, so he's definitely into stopping the spreads, that's for sure.
He's going to end it, that's for sure.
We are, the wife and kids want to head there as soon as I'm done here, so.
So in other words, you just give us 10 extra wings that we normally give our coaches.
We're going there, though, yes.
Hey, if you see the Mobilini family, that's an inside joke there. Be sure to tell them Heath will be down there real soon.
Sean will be laughing.
He'll know what we're talking about.
All right.
Go ahead, Train.
So leading the spread offense, they've kind of been going back and forth on 2 quarterbacks. They've had freshman Elijah Chafin and Carter Kennan. Just talk about those 2 and really the similarities and difference as far as how you have to prepare for who's going to quarterback for him or who's going to be in there taking the snaps.
Both are really athletic kids, so we're preparing as if both of them are playing. So we do half of our snaps preparing for one and then half preparing for the other. But the one thing that they kind of that doesn't change is, and the first thing that I watch when I watch film is their offensive line, and man, they play hard on the offensive line. So. That's what I focus on, because you can tell if a team's not good on the offensive line, I feel confident that we can beat them, but they're good on the offensive line.
And Train, before Heath jumps in, I want to ask you, the game is Saturday night. Now, the vast majority of high school games are played on Friday night till you get to the playoffs, but you've had the fortunate, privilege to play a few Saturday night games. Does that help you preparing for your practice schedule? Because it's different, when you're gearing for Friday night now. Oops, we've got an extra day of practice. Does those couple of games you've played on Saturday night help you leading into the game?
I would say, we've actually, we actually have a plan in place. We're going to bring the kids in at noon. Have a walkthrough.
Nice.
Have a lunch at noon. Have a walkthrough from noon at 1. Watch a movie. Till about 3:30. Have a dinner about 3:30, something light, then walk over to the field house. I mean, we're going to keep them there. I felt like the East Canton with our kids traveling with parents. We weren't focused from the get-go. I mean, it was and playing without Franco. He's a spark plug. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that stuff will change. But I think playing on Saturdays, help us. It's definitely an adjustment. It is. But I think it came good because it gave us one extra day to heal. But we were banged up. So.
And right now, Tommy's writing down his order for what he wants for that lunch menu at noon and then the dinner at 3:30. He said he doesn't have a preference on whatever menu. As long as he gets the food, he's okay.
Tell the pigskin members I'll have you something. I know they're good ladies.
Yeah, that's those schools that have the pigskin.
Let me recommend.
All those schools are just that have that. Those people do a wonderful job.
man.
Let me
That's
recommend the movie Greater. It's about
I watched it, man.
okay. It's a great one.
Yeah.
I did. Watched it over the quarantine.
Woo Pig Suey. There you go.
Yeah.
Heath.
You know, with this year being a unique experience, you know, once they come out and said, hey, teams are going to have a chance to be in the playoffs, what is the excitement level like around your program, knowing, you guys might not record-wise be where you might want to be. Of course, your schedule has been really tough when you look at some of the teams you've played, especially Indian Valley, you know. But what's the excitement level like around your program, your staff, and your kids right now?
Oh, it's high. I mean, I'll tell you, you know, we were, you know, obviously after these Canton losses, you know, we were kind of down, but, you know, it's high. Playoff football, you know, everybody was, I think we kind of crashed the OHSAA website that morning because
You couldn't get on.
Well, there was a sneaky way how you could see the brackets, and when I seen we played Mount Gilead at like 8:30 in the morning, and it was gone. I texted Leslie. I said, "Hey, we play you guys, Coach Starr's daughter," and but yeah, then all of a sudden like it crashed until the afternoon. I'm thinking, man, I hope like I didn't like lie and they redo the brackets or whatever. But yeah. Actually, you can give Brett Shipman credit for figuring out, you know, you just had to change the last two numbers of the web address. And, yeah, I think I spread the word. And next thing you know, we crashed the site, I think.
It was down for a while.
Yeah.
Right. I remember we were getting screenshots of people's posts that they were putting out there just to get ours together.
Yeah, I talked to some guys, you know, who were at work, and you know they were waiting all day. You know, I think everybody getting in the playoffs, you know, them people who say, "Oh, to make it," you know what? Times have changed.
It has.
You know, 8 used to make. You know what? Who cares? You know, get in the playoffs. Let the kids have the opportunity to experience playoff football.
And that's
it's like that. It's like that tough guy mentality. Oh, back in my day it was 4. No, you know, it's about the kids, and this is best for the kids.
And this year more than any, and Donnie, I have applauded OHSAA. I thought this was a brilliant plan. You know, I've heard people say, "Oh, they're just doing it for the money." Well, no, you rely on the money that the playoffs make. But the beauty of it, like you said, the kids, there's an extra step. You're pumped up. It's the playoffs, and you know if you win, you're going to second round.
Yeah.
If you do not win, it's not over.
No.
You still get to play, and I think that's the beauty of it. You know, you still have, you know, 4 more weeks of football
I
to
think
go.
they got to look at it going forward.
Yes.
I think 8-game schedule. You can opt in or opt out if you want to opt in, and then you can fill your last 2 weeks if you opt out. You know, and if you lose week 9 of the playoffs or week 1 of the playoffs, you know, you can play one more game. You know,
I love it.
it's good for kids, man. And if that's what we're about, if we're
About the
good for
kids.
kids, let's
Right.
do it.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. Have you ever looked into Indiana's, the way they do the playoffs? It's basically what you're talking. They do 9 weeks, and then the playoffs start. You know what I mean?
Everybody's in.
And then everybody's in. Now, I understand Indiana's a little bit smaller, but, you know, they play until they're done. They just do a 9-week season, which what I like about Ohio's idea, what you said, is I would love to see them go to this. That way you still got your 10-game season.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts about, like you just said, moving forward or how Indiana does it?
I think you have to still use the point system though.
Yeah,
Yeah, or if you're going to do the voting, take the 5 highest votes and 5 lowest votes, and then use the middle votes, because there's some outliers out there that were just like, you know, somebody had Fort Fry at like 8. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
So
We need Joe Itel out there on the
yeah,
case, right?
yeah,
He's on it.
let's at least be realistic with them. That's the only thing.
And Coach, before, you know, as we get ready to wrap this up, one thing when you look on the defensive side of the ball for the Indians, have they faced a lot of spread or anything different than what they may see Saturday night?
I thought Cardington, who they played, Cardington Lincoln, who they played, and actually, you know, Frederickstown. You know, not the same stuff that we do, but some of the stuff was similar. And I'm glad you brought up their defense, because you guys talk offense, man. They fly to the football. They're good defensively. They are good defensively. I'm not. You know, that's not me blowing smoke. That's not coach speak.
Right.
They are good defensively. They play hard.
And, you know, that's one of the things I kind of was noticing about them. Their scores have been somewhat lopsided there, but at the same time, it's kind of like it reminds me of Cambridge last year when they opened the season against Indian Creek and John Glenn, and the scores were very deceiving because their defense was on short fields. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what's happened to Mount Gilead a little bit, is playing on short field. Their defense looked pretty good.
I mean, I'm confident. You know, if they played our schedule right now, they'd be sitting at 2-3 as well. So yeah, they're a well-coached team.
Nice. Coach, you seem excited, and it's at home, and Warrior Nation out there, they are pumped up.
They are.
It'll be a special night, playoffs at home.
I'm wondering if I was thinking. I bet it's the first Saturday night football game ever at Buckeye Trail.
That's what I was wondering.
I went back through. I can't think of any.
I remember there was a game when I think Brock and those guys played, but I was thinking that was a Friday night.
Friday night, Frederickstown.
Yeah, Frederickstown. Yeah,
it was Friday night. I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when 94, even though there wasn't home games, they were all on Friday nights as well. So.
Special night.
Oh, it's gonna be cool. I mean, I was kind of hoping when they. I was kind of hoping we would be on Saturday night. I think it'll be cool.
Thought you're Ohio State Buckeyes on a Saturday. Now you get football on Saturday.
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
And KGP TV will be there, good Lord willing. And Coach Kerns, all I can say is, we plan on seeing you the following week. But we'd rather see you back on Saturday night than Friday night. But we'll be thankful to see you either way. But
We appreciate it, man. We appreciate all you guys do. This is great for the community with what you guys do for high school football. It's high school football special, and you guys just continue give these kids such cool things by doing this stuff.
yeah, Caleb Graham puts a lot of time into this, but we prefer to take the thank yous. Even though he's
good
responsible.
His money, our credit.
Right.
Train,
exactly.
any final words as we let Coach Kerns?
No, I think we're good. Like I know I showed it to him before we went on there. I said the biggest issue for the Indians was their penalties and turnovers. And like Heath, just to bounce off what he was talking about, they've had that short fields right there. Penalties and turnovers will make it that short field for him. So this is going to be a big battle.
I watched them.
Definitely, we all wish you the best of luck Saturday night against Mount Gilead.
Appreciate
we'll
it,
definitely
man.
be
We need it.
rooting on the Warriors.
We'll play. I mean, our kids are going to play hard. I mean, they do. They always play hard. We'll play hard.
And your schedule, with the spread that you'll see, you've seen enough good quarterbacks over the past couple of years that defensively, I know you'll be ready, and offensively, they'll be hungry to on the line of scrimmage to try to control things there. Well, again, we want to thank Buffalo Wild Wings, Kerns, Muskingum Valley Health Centers, John Valentine Insurance Agency, Simple Windows and Doors, and Basic Systems for sponsoring this week's edition of the KGP pregame show. Special thanks to head coach of the Buckeye Trail Warriors, Donnie Kerns, for joining us tonight, and good luck to Buckeye Trail Saturday night at home in Old Washington against Mount Gilead Indians. So good luck to the Warriors, and Coach, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll have you back up here again.
Yep, good luck.
And we'll be back after this timeout to give out our awards from week 6 of the high school football season here on the KGP pregame show. Welcome back to the KGP pregame show as we wrap up this week's edition with the awards from week 6. And again, we want to give out, as we award people, our special shout out to our fine sponsors: Basic Systems, Simple Windows and Doors, John Valentine Insurance Agency, Muskingum Valley Health Centers, Kerns, and Buffalo Wild Wings for sponsoring our KGP pregame show throughout the high school football season. Be sure to thank these fine sponsors whenever you visit their place of business. And speaking of John Valentine Insurance Agency, Heath, it's time to give out for the winner for week 6 of the high school football season. This week's John Valentine Insurance Agency Defensive Player of the Week.
Well, we only had 2 schools to choose from, with Trail's game getting postponed due to COVID issues there, but with newcomers now. But, you know, you look out to Cambridge, tough loss for Cambridge this week, but they still had a couple of defensive guys shine through. Trey Stottsbury, 6 tackles. Caden Kenworthy, 5 tackles. Justin Bartlett in another big game. That's a name that you know here very well in the KGP show. Was a sack and 2 for loss, so good job there, guys, fella, in the loss. But then you go over to Meadowbrook. Their defense was dominant in a 60-0 shutout. They had a couple of different guys with 4 tackles apiece, but we're going to go ahead and give it to a guy that normally doesn't get as much playing time, but Cale Flowers Jr. with 6 tackles and the win and clinching undefeated regular season for the Meadowbrook Colts. So congratulations, Cale.
Yeah, so Cale Flowers, this week's John Valentine Insurance Agency Defensive Player of the Week. And now, Train, we turn it over to you to announce the Buffalo Wild Wings KGP Player of the Week.
Yeah, and obviously when you put up 60 points in a game, you again probably have some players on the offensive end. So you could look at Singleton, who was 11 of 14, 176 yards, 5 rushes, 44 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Lacey, 4 rushes, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Brady McManaway. Yes, his last name is pronounced McManaway. That's the people who are in attendance in the game will get that. He had 4 receptions for 81 yards. But we're going to go to Anthony Schwartz with 9 rushes, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns for that vaunted Colts rushing attack that was just running left, right, and up the middle all day on the West End defense.
So congratulations to this week's Buffalo Wild Wings KGP Player of the Week, Anthony Schwartz of the Meadowbrook Colts. So, Anthony, congratulations to you. You will receive, along with your little trophy, will also be a gift certificate, $25 from Buffalo Wild Wings for being this week's Player of the Week. And fellas, as we head out week 7, very thankful that we've made it this far and we've made it to the playoffs, and we want to wish our 2 local schools, Cambridge and Buckeye Trail, the best of luck Saturday night. Both teams hosting. Cambridge will play Lyndon McKinley at McFarland Stadium this Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and in Old Washington, the Bill Baker Activity Complex, Mount Gilead will come in to take on the Buckeye Trail Warriors. So best of luck to them. And Meadowbrook, enjoy your bye week, and they will play the winner of Philo and Maysville, who play Saturday night this week for the right to come to Byesville next week. So once again, we want to thank our fine sponsors, and we want to thank you for spending a little of your time with us here for the KGP pregame show. And on behalf of the KGP family, we want to wish everyone a safe and pleasant weekend, and good luck to the Bobcats and Warriors this week in the playoffs.
Yep.
You can count on me meeting you on the sidelines.
And you stay classy, Guernsey County.
Thanks for joining us here, and thank Caleb Graham and the rest of our family, and we'll see you next week, where we hope to have Coach Kohler Clendenning of the Meadowbrook Colts and head coach Ray Leake of the Cambridge Bobcats, as well as a special thanks again to our special guest tonight, the head coach of the Buckeye Trail Warriors, Donnie Kerns. And on behalf of the KGP family, good night and stay safe.